My 6-year-old son called a stranger sobbing, "Mommy won't wake up." He accidentally reached his billionaire father who abandoned us. "When were you planning to tell me?" The words hung in the sterile hospital air between them like a loaded gun. "Never." Delilah Bennett's voice was cold, final, devastating. "I was never planning to tell you, Sterling." Sterling Hawthorne stared at the woman he once loved, the woman lying in a hospital bed with 4 lines, snaking from her arm, her face pale, but her eyes burning with 7 years of accumulated fury. "They're my children, Delilah, my children." Her laugh was bitter, painful, the sound of something broken that had learned to survive despite the damage. "They're my children, mine. I carried them, birthed them, raised them. I paid for their diapers and their clothes and their school supplies when I could barely afford groceries. I sat up with them when they were sick. I dried their tears when they fell. I taught them to read and write and be kind humans, while you were busy with Genevieve Pemberton, building your empire, living your perfect life. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk to me about fair? Let me tell you what's not fair, Sterling. What's not fair is being 26 years old, pregnant with twins, crying yourself to sleep every night because the man you loved called your life's work a hobby. What's not fair is going through labor 6 weeks early, terrified and alone, wondering if your babies would survive. What's not fair is 7 years of them asking why they don't have a daddy like the other kids, and me having to explain that their father didn't want us." Sterling's hands trembled. "I didn't know. God, Delilah, I didn't know you were pregnant. And whose fault is that? You were already planning your future with Patricia Melbourne before you even walked out my door. You made your choice. You chose your grandmother's approval over our love. You chose a woman who fit your social requirements over the woman who would have done anything for you. So no, Sterling, I didn't tell you, because you forfeited the right to know the moment you called me defective and walked away. Have you ever had to face the consequences of the worst decision you ever made? Have you ever discovered that your biggest mistake had ripple effects you never imagined? Have you ever gotten a second chance you absolutely didn't deserve? This is the story of Sterling Hawthorne, a billionaire CEO who threw away real love for social status, only to discover 7 years later that the woman he abandoned had been raising his children alone. Children he never knew existed, until one terrified night when his 6-year-old son accidentally dialed his number and sobbed 4 words that changed everything. "Mommy won't wake up. Stay with me, because this journey will break your heart, challenge everything you believe about forgiveness and second chances, and ultimately remind you that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead to the most beautiful transformations." Before we dive into this incredible story, I need you to do something for me right now. If you believe people can genuinely change, if you believe in the power of redemption and the strength it takes to forgive, hit that like button. Smash it. And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because every single week I bring you stories that don't just entertain, they transform, they inspire, they remind us what it means to be beautifully, messily, courageously human. Turn on those notifications because you won't want to miss a single story. Now, let me take you back to where this all began, to a phone call at 2:47 in the morning that shattered a billionaire's carefully constructed world. The phone rang at 2:47 a.m. Sterling Hawthorne reached for it instinctively, his business mogul brain immediately thinking, emergency, crisis, something wrong with the Tokyo office, server breach, corporate espionage. What he heard instead stopped his heart. "Please, please wake up, Mommy. Please." A child's voice, small and terrified, sobbing into the phone with the kind of raw fear that bypasses all rational thought and strikes directly at something primal. "Mommy won't wake up. Mommy, please. I don't know what to do. Please wake up." Sterling sat bolt upright in his king-sized bed, the silk sheets falling away, the floor to ceiling windows of his penthouse reflecting the glittering Manhattan skyline back at him. None of it mattered, only that voice, that terrified, sobbing voice. Hey buddy, I'm here. Can you hear me?" The crying continued for a moment, then hitched. "Who are you?" "My name is Sterling. I'm here to help you, okay? What's your name?" "J. Jasper." The name meant nothing to Sterling, but the terror in that little voice meant everything. "Jasper, you're doing great. So brave. I need you to take a deep breath with me, okay? Can you do that?" He heard the child trying to breathe through his sobs. "Good job, buddy. That's perfect. Now, I need you to tell me what's happening. Is your mom there with you? She won't wake up. I tried shaking her and saying her name really loud, and her eyes won. It open, and she's really, really hot, and I don't know what to do. Sterling was already out of bed, pulling on clothes with one hand while keeping the phone pressed to his ear with the other. You're doing everything right, Jasper. You called for help. That's exactly what you should do. How old are you, buddy? 6. I'm 6.5. 6 years old, and dealing with this. Sterling's throat tightened. That's very grown up. You're being so brave. Is there anyone else there with you? My sister, Autumn. She's crying too. We're twins. Okay, Jasper, I need you to listen very carefully. Is your mom breathing? Can you see her chest moving up and down? A pause. Sterling heard movement, small footsteps, then the child's voice closer to the phone. I think so. Yeah, her chest is moving. That's good. That's very good. Now, I need to know where you are. What's your address? The child recited an address in Brooklyn. Sterling's mind immediately cataloged it. Working class neighborhood. Decent. Safe enough. Far from his world of Manhattan penthouses and corporate towers. Perfect. You did perfect, Jasper. Now I'm going to call 911 for you on another phone, but I'm going to stay right here on this line with you. I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone. Okay? Okay. Sterling grabbed his second phone and dialed emergency services, his voice steady and authoritative as he relayed the information. A child, approximately 6 years old. Mother unconscious, but breathing. Possible medical emergency. He provided the address, confirmed paramedics were being dispatched, and returned. His attention to the terrified little boy on the other end of his phone. Jasper, help is coming. The ambulance will be there very soon. You saved your mom by calling for help. I tried to call 911, but my fingers were shaking and I pushed the wrong numbers, and then you answered, and you sounded nice, so I didn't hang up. Something about that statement hit Sterling in a way he couldn't quite name. This child, terrified and alone, had accidentally called a stranger and found comfort in his voice. Had trusted him. I'm really glad you didn't hang up, buddy. Can you tell me your mom's name? Delilah. Delilah Bennett, but everyone calls her Lila. The world stopped. Not gradually, not slowly. The entire world simply ceased, spinning on its axis. Sterling Hawthorne, a man who prided himself on never losing his composure, who had negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, who had built an empire on steady nerves and calculated risks, felt his knees buckle. He sat down hard on the edge of his bed. Delilah Bennett, the name he hadn't allowed himself to say out loud in 7 years, the name that appeared in his dreams, his regrets, his 3 a.m. moments of brutal honesty when he admitted to himself that every choice he'd made since walking away from her had been wrong. Sir, mister, are you still there? Jasper's small voice pulled him back. I'm here. I'm here, Jasper. I'm not going anywhere. His mind was racing, doing math he didn't want to do, calculating timelines he didn't want to calculate. 6-year-old twins. 7 years since he'd last seen Delilah. The timing was perfect. Perfectly, devastatingly possible. Do you have a dad, Jasper? Is there someone I can call for you? The pause was heavy with something Sterling couldn't identify. No, I don't have a dad. It's just Mommy and me and Autumn. And Grandma Diane, but she lives far away. No father. Just Delilah raising twins alone. Sterling heard sirens in the background through the phone. Jasper, do you hear that? That's the ambulance. They're coming to help your mom. They're here. They're knocking really loud. Go let them in, buddy. You did such a good job. You saved your mom. Thank you, mister. Thank you for staying with me. Anytime, Jasper. He heard adult voices taking over, paramedics asking questions, the organized chaos of medical professionals doing their job. And then the line went dead. Sterling sat in the darkness of his bedroom, staring at his phone screen. Call duration, 8 minutes, 34 seconds. 8 minutes that had just destroyed 7 years of carefully constructed denial. Delilah Bennett had children, 6-year-old twins, who would be 7 years old in 6 months, which meant they were conceived 7 years ago. 7 years ago, when he and Delilah had spent that final weekend in the Hamptons, when they'd still been together, when he'd still been foolish enough to think his grandmother's opinions mattered more than his own heart. Sterling stood and walked to his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out. over the Manhattan skyline beginning to lighten with approaching dawn. Somewhere across the East River, in Brooklyn, Delilah Bennett was being loaded into an ambulance. And 2 children who might be his were probably terrified. He grabbed his jacket. His driver, Marcus, was used to late-night emergencies and didn't even blink when Sterling called down. Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Fast. 15 minutes later, Sterling walked into the emergency room of Brooklyn Methodist. The contrast to his usual world was stark. No marble floors, no original artwork, just linoleum and fluorescent lights and the organized chaos of an ER at 3:30 in the morning. He approached the reception desk, his tailored suit and obvious wealth making him stand out like a diamond in a coal mine. Delilah Bennett. She was brought in by ambulance approximately 30 minutes ago. 2 children with her. The nurse, tired and overworked but professional, typed into her computer. "Are you family?" The question stopped him cold. Was he? The potential father of her children, even if he'd never known they existed? The man who'd abandoned her when she needed him most? "The children called me. I'm the one who got them help." The nurse's expression softened slightly. "The kids are in the family waiting area. Mom's being evaluated. That's all I can tell you without her permission." "Are they alone?" "Social worker is with them until we can reach next of kin." "Where's the family waiting area?" The nurse pointed down a corridor. Sterling followed her directions to a small, tired room with uncomfortable chairs and outdated magazines. In the corner, on a worn couch, 2 small figures huddled together under hospital blankets. Sterling stopped in the doorway. He'd prepared himself intellectually for this moment, but nothing could have prepared him emotionally. The boy, Jasper, had dark hair that fell across his forehead in exactly the way Sterling's had as a child. He'd seen it in photographs. That same stubborn cowlick, that same way of holding his head. The girl, Autumn, had Delilah's expressive amber eyes and the same determined set to her chin that Sterling remembered so well. But her nose was his. The hawthorn nose that appeared in family portraits going back generations. Both children looked up when he entered, and Jasper's eyes went wide. "You came." The simple statement, delivered with such surprise and wonder, broke something inside Sterling. "Of course I came." He moved into the room slowly, carefully, like approaching frightened animals. A social worker sat nearby, watching him with professional caution. "I'm Mrs. Rodriguez. And you are?" Sterling pulled out his business card, a gesture so automatic he didn't even think about it. "Sterling Hawthorne. I'm the one who called 911 for the children." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyebrows rose. Everyone in New York knew the Hawthorne name. "That was very kind of you, Mr. Hawthorne, but we have protocols regarding who can be with minors. I understand completely. I just wanted to make sure they weren't alone and frightened." He turned his attention back to the children, kneeling down to their level despite his expensive suit. "How are you guys doing?" Jasper's eyes were red from crying, but he sat up straighter, clearly trying to be brave. "Is Mommy going to be okay?" "The doctors are taking very good care of her. They're the best." Autumn, who had been silent until now, studied Sterling with unnerving intensity. "You're the man Jasper called." "I am." "Why did you come here?" "You don't know us." Sterling looked into those eyes, Delilah's eyes, and tried to find words that would make sense to a 6-year-old. "Because when someone needs help, you help them. And your brother called me, and I wanted to make sure you were both safe." Jasper tilted his head, studying Sterling's face with a kind of focus that made Sterling's skin prickle. "You look familiar." Before Sterling could process that statement, the door burst open, and a woman in. Her early 60s rushed in, her gray hair pulled back, her face tight with worry. Jasper, Autumn, Grandma Diane. The children threw themselves into her arms and she held them close, rocking them, murmuring reassurances. Mrs. Rodriguez stood. "Mrs. Bennett?" "Diane Bennett, yes. I'm Delilah's mother. I came as soon as the hospital called. What happened?" The social worker began explaining, and Diane listened while keeping her arms around her grandchildren. Then her eyes landed on Sterling, still kneeling on the floor. He watched recognition dawn, followed by shock, followed by something that looked a lot like fury. "You." The single word carried the weight of 7 years of anger. Sterling stood slowly. "Mrs. Bennett, what the hell are you doing here?" The children looked between the adults with growing confusion and worry. "Grandma, that's the nice man Jasper called. He helped us." Diane's expression flickered with confusion. "What?" Sterling kept his voice calm. aware of small ears listening. Jasper accidentally called my number instead of 911. I stayed on the line with him and called emergency services. I wanted to make sure the children were safe. How convenient. You abandoned my daughter 7 years ago, and now you show up playing hero? Autumn's small voice cut through the tension. Grandma, what's abandon mean? Sterling felt that question like a knife to the chest. Mrs. Bennet, perhaps we could speak privately. I have nothing to say to you, and you have no business being here. I'm aware of that, but I needed to know they were okay. Diane's eyes narrowed. She was processing something, calculating something. They're fine. We're all fine. We've been fine without you for 7 years. The emphasis on 7 years hung in the air like a neon sign. Before Sterling could respond, a doctor in scrubs pushed through the waiting room door. Bennett family? Everyone turned. Delilah's stable. Severe case of pneumonia that became septic. We've got her on 4 antibiotics and fluids. She's conscious now and asking for her children. The relief in the room was palpable. Diane closed her eyes briefly, mouthing what looked like a prayer. The children clutched each other's hands. Can we see her? Diane asked. Briefly. She needs rest, but I know she won't relax until she sees them. The doctor's eyes landed on Sterling. Are you Mr. Bennet? Sterling felt all eyes on him. This was the moment. The moment where he could walk away, let these people who had survived without him continue their lives. The moment where he could preserve the fiction he'd built around his choices. Or the moment where he could choose differently than he had 7 years ago. No, I'm not Mr. Bennet. Diane's voice was firm. He's nobody, just someone who happened to help tonight. The doctor nodded and gestured for Diane and the children to follow him. Jasper hesitated, looking back at Sterling. Thank you for helping us, mister. Thank you for staying with me when I was scared. Sterling's throat was too tight to speak. He just nodded. As they disappeared down the corridor, Sterling stood alone in the waiting room. His carefully ordered world was crumbling around him. He had children. A boy who had his eyes, his hair, his voice. A girl who had Delilah's spirit in his bone structure. 6-year-old twins who should have had a father but didn't because he'd been too. Proud, too foolish, too focused on winning an argument to see what truly mattered. Delilah had been pregnant when he left her. Or she'd gotten pregnant shortly after. Either way, she'd carried his children, given birth to them, raised them alone while building the career he'd called a hobby. And she'd apparently never planned to tell him they existed. The realization hit him with devastating clarity. Delilah Bennet had deemed him so unworthy, so utterly unsuitable as a father that she'd chosen to raise twins on her own rather than involve him in their lives. The successful, brilliant woman he'd loved and lost had decided he didn't deserve to know his own children. The worst part? She'd been absolutely right. Sterling pulled out his phone. He made 2 calls. The first was to his assistant. Cancel everything for the next week. Everything. Board meetings, investor calls, all of it. Mr. Hawthorne, is everything all right? No, but it will be. The second call was to his lawyer. Elliot, I need you to research something for me. Quietly. Paternity law. Custody rights. What are my options if I'm the biological father of children I didn't know existed? A pause. Sterling, what's going on? Just research it. I'll explain later. After hanging up, Sterling walked to the hospital's windows and stared out at the Brooklyn skyline beginning to lighten with dawn. Somewhere in this building, Delilah Bennet was lying in a hospital bed, probably being told about the stranger who had helped her children, probably putting pieces together, probably realizing whose number Jasper had accidentally called, probably terrified that Sterling would destroy the life she'd built. He wouldn't do that. He couldn't, but he also couldn't walk away. Not again. Those children deserved a father. And Delilah deserved better than what he'd given her 7 years ago, but that ship had sailed when he did let his pride and his grandmother's prejudices destroy the best thing that had ever happened to him. Sterling Hawthorne had built an empire on never backing down from a challenge, on seeing opportunities where others saw obstacles, on turning losses into wins. This was the most important challenge of his life. He had no idea how to win when the prize wasn't money or power, but the trust of a woman who had every reason to hate him, and children who didn't even know his name. An hour passed, then another. Sterling stayed, unable to make himself leave. He'd moved to the hallway, sitting in one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs hospitals seemed to order in bulk. Nurses changed shifts. The sky outside grew lighter, and Sterling Hawthorne, billionaire CEO, sat in a Brooklyn hospital hallway and faced the consequences of the worst decision he'd ever made. "Mr. Hawthorne?" He looked up to find Diane Bennett standing over him. Her expression was carefully neutral, which somehow seemed worse than anger. "She wants to see you." Sterling's heart jumped. "Delilah?" She figured out what happened. "That Jasper called you. She wants to talk before you leave." "I wasn't planning to leave." Diane's eyes filled with something that looked like tears. "You lost the right to be here 7 years ago." "I know." Sterling's voice was rough with emotion. "I know exactly what I lost and exactly what I threw away. But I'm here now, and I'm not walking away again. It's not your choice. It's hers." "Then let me talk to her. Let me explain. Let me try to make this right." Diane studied him for a long moment, and Sterling had the distinct impression he was being measured against some internal standard he couldn't see. "Room 412. The children are with me in the cafeteria. You have 15 minutes before they come back up." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I'm doing this for my daughter, not for you. But Sterling, if you hurt her again, if you walk out on her or those babies one more time, billionaire or not, I will make your life a living hell." Sterling believed her completely. Room 412 was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors and the hushed sounds of a hospital at dawn. Sterling paused in the doorway, his breath catching at the sight of the woman he'd thought he'd never see again. Delilah Bennett looked older, thinner. The dark circles under her eyes spoke of years of hard work and harder choices, and 4 lines snaked from her arm, and her skin was pale against the white hospital sheets. But she was still beautiful. Still the woman who had haunted his dreams for 7 years. Still the woman who had looked at him once with love and trust before he destroyed both. Her eyes, those incredible amber eyes that had once looked at him with such tenderness, now held only wariness and something that might have been fear. "Hello, Sterling." Her voice was hoarse, probably from the pneumonia, but the coldness in it had nothing to do with physical illness. "Delilah." He moved into the room slowly, every instinct screaming that he was entering territory where he had no right to be. "I'm glad you're okay. Are you?" Her eyes never left his face. "Or are you here because you've done the math? No point in denying it. No point in playing games. They're mine." It wasn't a question, but Delilah answered anyway. "Biologically, yes." The caveat stung. The implication was clear. Biology might make him their father, but nothing else did. "When were you planning to tell me?" And there it was. The question that had been burning in his chest since the moment Jasper said that name. Delilah Bennett. Her laugh was bitter, the sound of something broken that had learned to live with the damage. "Never. I was never planning to tell you." The honesty was brutal, but Sterling had earned brutal honesty. "They're my children, Delilah." Her eyes flashed with fury. "They're my children. Mine. I carried them for 8 months. I gave birth to them 6 weeks early, terrified they wouldn't survive. I held them in the NICU when they were so small they fit in my hands. I paid for their diapers when I could barely afford groceries. I worked from home at 2 in the morning while they slept, so I could be with them during the day. I taught them to walk and talk and read. I wiped their tears and kissed their scraped knees and stayed up with them through nightmares and fevers and all the million little things that make you a parent." She paused, her breathing harsh. "So yes, biologically they're yours, but in every way that actually matters, they're mine." Sterling felt each word like a physical blow, while I didn't even know they existed. "And whose fault is that?" Delilah's voice rose slightly, then she winced and lowered it again, mindful of her weakened state. "You were already planning your future with Genevieve Pemberton before you even walked out my door. You made your choice. You chose your grandmother's approval over our love. You chose social status over partnership. You chose someone who fit your requirements over the woman who would have moved mountains for you. That's not fair." "It wasn't like that." "Really? Because I saw the pictures, Sterling. You at the Rothschild Gala with her 2 weeks after you left me. The 2 of you at the theater. The society pages speculating about when you'd announce your engagement. The announcement 6 months later in the Times. An engagement that ended after a year when we both realized we'd gotten together for all the wrong reasons." Delilah's expression didn't soften. "And I should care about your failed engagement. Why, exactly?" "You shouldn't. I'm just trying to explain that it wasn't what you think. Genevieve and I weren't in love. We were never in love. We were two people who thought we should be together because it made sense on paper. How romantic. It wasn't. It was hollow and empty and wrong, and I knew it the entire time. But I was too proud to admit I'd made a mistake leaving you. Too stubborn to admit that I'd thrown away the only real thing I'd ever had for a relationship built on social compatibility and family approval. Sterling moved closer to the bed, and Delilah didn't tell him to stop. There's so much I need to say to you. So much I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. Delilah's voice cracked slightly. You made everything perfectly clear 7 years ago. My career was a hobby. My dreams were selfish. I was wrong for wanting to pursue my ambitions. I was wrong for not making you and your needs the center of my universe. I was wrong. I was so incredibly wrong about all of it. Yes, you were. The simple agreement carried more weight than any accusation. But being wrong doesn't change the past, Sterling. Being sorry doesn't give you back the 7 years you missed. It doesn't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep, pregnant and alone, wondering how I was going to survive. It doesn't make up for the first time Jasper asked why he didn't have a daddy like the other kids. It doesn't heal the 1,000 little wounds of doing it all by myself. Sterling felt tears burning behind his eyes. I'm so sorry, Delilah. I'm so desperately sorry for all of it. I know you are. I can see it in your face. But sorry doesn't fix what's broken. Then let me make it right. Please, let me be part of their lives. Let me be the father they deserve. Delilah stared at him for a long moment, and Sterling saw the war happening behind her eyes. Anger and pain and fear and something else he couldn't quite identify. They don't know you. To them, you're just some nice man who helped when Mommy was sick. I want to change that. It's not about what you want anymore, Sterling. It stopped being about what you wanted the moment you walked out my door. Now it's only about what's best for Jasper and Autumn. Agreed. Completely agreed. So tell me how to do this right. Tell me how to be part of their lives without disrupting everything you've built. Delilah closed her eyes, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. I don't know if that's possible. We can figure it out together. Together? Her eyes snapped open, and the fury in them was scalding. There is no together, Sterling. There's me and my children, and the life we've built. You're a stranger asking to be let in. I'm their father. Biology doesn't make you a father. Her voice was fierce with protective anger. Showing up does. Being there does. Loving them unconditionally does. Putting their needs before your own does. Can you do that? Can you really commit to being in their lives, or is this just guilt talking? Because if you show up now and decide in 6 months that being a father is too hard or too inconvenient, it will destroy them. And I won't let you do to them what you did to me. The accusation hung in the air between them, impossible to deny, because it was absolutely true. Before Sterling could respond, small voices echoed in the hallway. Mommy. Both Sterling and Delilah turned toward the door as Jasper and Autumn burst into the room, Diane following more slowly behind them. The children stopped short when they saw Sterling's surprise and confusion crossing their small faces. You're still here. Jasper's voice held wonder, as if adults staying when they said they would was somehow unusual. I wanted to make sure your mom was okay. Autumn tilted her head, studying him with that same unnerving intensity she'd shown in the waiting room. Are you a doctor too? No, sweetheart. I'm not a doctor. I'm a friend of your mother's. The endearment had slipped out naturally, and Sterling saw Delilah's eyes widen slightly. We used to be friends, Delilah corrected quietly. A long time ago. Jasper moved closer to Sterling, looking up at him with those eyes that were mirror images of Sterling's own. You have the same eyes as me. The room went silent. Diane moved protectively closer to the hospital bed. Delilah's hands clenched the sheets, and Sterling felt the weight of 6-year-old observation threatening to unravel everything. Autumn joined her brother, comparing Sterling's face to Jasper's with the kind of careful attention artists bring to their work. He does have the same eyes. And the same hair color, and your nose looks like Autumn's nose. 6-year-olds were far more perceptive than Sterling had ever anticipated. Delilah reached for her children, pulling them close to the hospital bed. Babies, Mr. Hawthorne and I need to talk. Can you go with Grandma for a little bit? But we just got back. Jasper's protest was immediate and predictable. I know, love. Just a few more minutes. Please. Diane began ushering the children toward the door. But Jasper pulled away and walked, straight to Sterling with the kind of directness that must have come from Delilah. Thank you for staying. When I called you, I was really, really scared. But you made me feel better. You made me feel like everything would be okay. Sterling knelt down to the child's level, not trusting his voice, looking into his son's face, seeing his own features reflected back at him, feeling the weight of 7 missed years crushing down on him. You were so brave, Jasper. Braver than a lot of adults would have been. I was honored that you called me, honored that I could help you. Will we see you again? The question hung in the air. Sterling looked past his son to the woman in the hospital bed, the woman who had every right to say no, who had built a beautiful life without him, who owed him absolutely nothing. I hope so, buddy. I really hope so. After the children left with Diane, the room felt emptier, heavier. The silence stretched between Sterling and Delilah like a chasm neither knew how to cross. I won't keep them from you. Delilah's voice was quiet but firm. Sterling's head snapped up. You won't? I can't. I won't. You're right that they deserve to know their father. But Sterling, listen to me very carefully. She sat up slightly in the bed, wincing at the movement but pushing through. If you do this, if you enter their lives, you can't change your mind. You can't decide in 6 months or a year that being a father is too hard or too complicated or too disruptive to your lifestyle. Because if you walk into their world and then walk back out, it will break them. It will make them think they're not worthy of being loved. And I will never forgive you for that. I won't walk away. You don't know that. You didn't think you'd walk away from me 7 years ago, but you did. The accusation was irrefutable. You're right. I walked away from the best thing that ever happened to me because I was young and stupid and proud. I let my grandmother's opinions matter more than my own heart. I chose status over substance, approval over love. I made you feel like you had to choose between me and your dreams when I should have been supporting those dreams with everything in me. Sterling stood and moved to her bedside. I can't change the past, Delilah. God knows I would if I could. I would go back to that night and choose differently. I would tell my grandmother to hell with her opinions. I would support your fellowship in Copenhagen. I would be the partner you deserved instead of the coward I was. His voice cracked. But I can't change it. All I can do is choose differently now. I can choose to show up for them, to be consistent and present and loving, to put their needs before my ego or my pride or my comfort. And what about me? Delilah's voice was barely a whisper. What about the fact that seeing you tears open wounds I spent 7 years healing? What about the fact that I built walls around my heart to protect myself from ever feeling that kind of pain again, and now you're asking me to let you back into our lives? I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if I can. But I'm asking you to try. For them. A tear slid down Delilah's cheek. I built a good life for them, Sterling. A happy life. We don't need your money or your connections or your guilt-driven attention. I know you don't need me. You've proven beyond any doubt that you're more than capable of doing this alone. You've done an incredible job raising them. They're brilliant and kind and amazing. Sterling's voice was thick with emotion. But maybe they deserve to have both of us. Maybe they deserve to have a father who shows up and a mother who's already given them everything. Maybe they deserve the family they should have had all along. The silence that followed was heavy with 7 years of pain and possibility. Delilah turned her face away, but Sterling saw more tears escaping. Slow. We do this slow. Supervised visits at first. Getting to know them gradually. No rushing, no pressure. And Sterling, the absolute first time you disappoint them, the first time you let them down or make them feel unwanted or put your needs ahead of theirs, I will cut you out of their lives so fast your head will spin. Do you understand? Completely. They call the shots. If they don't want to see you, we stop. If they're uncomfortable, we pause. Their emotional well-being comes first, last, and always. I wouldn't have it any other way. Delilah turned back to face him, and Sterling saw something fragile and tentative in her expression. Don't make me regret this, Sterling. Don't prove me wrong for giving you this chance. I won't. I promise you, I won't. You promised me forever once before. You promised to love me in sickness and health. You promised you'd support my dreams. And then you walked away when I needed you most. So forgive me if your promises don't mean much right now. The words cut deep because they were absolutely true. Then I won't make promises. I'll just show up. Every day. Every visit. Every moment they need me. I'll prove it through action, not words. Delilah nodded slowly. 1 week from today. Central Park. The playground near Bethesda Fountain. 10 in the morning. 1 hour. I'll be there the entire time. I'll be there. And, Sterling, Delilah's eyes were fierce despite her exhaustion. They don't know you're their father. To them, you're just someone I work with who wanted to meet them. We tell them the truth when and if you earn that right. Understood? Understood. As Sterling left the hospital an hour later, the sun was fully risen over Brooklyn. He'd gotten Delilah's number, made plans for their first supervised meeting, and been given one chance he absolutely didn't deserve. One chance to be the father his children needed. One chance to somehow earn forgiveness from the woman he'd never stopped loving. He thought about calling his office, checking on the merger negotiations, reviewing the quarterly reports that were probably piling up. Instead, he called his grandmother. She answered on the third ring, her voice crisp despite the early hour. "Sterling, darling, I was hoping you'd call. The Pemberton family is asking about potential reconciliation with Genevieve. I think we should have lunch this week to discuss." "No." The single word seemed to surprise her. "No? I'm not interested in reconciling with Genevieve. I'm not interested in your matchmaking. And I'm not interested in living my life according to your social requirements anymore. Excuse me? I have children, grandmother. 6-year-old twins. A boy and a girl. They're brilliant and beautiful. And I've missed 7 years of their lives because I was too busy trying to please you and live up to the Hawthorne name." Silence on the other end. Who is the mother? Delilah Bennett. The architect? The girl from that middle-class family? "Sterling, please tell me you're joking. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Delilah is the best person I've ever known, and those children are my priority now. Not the company, not the family legacy, not your approval. Them. You're making a mistake. I already made my mistake 7 years ago when I listened to you instead of my heart. I'm not making it again." He hung up before she could respond. Some bridges needed to burn to light the way forward. Over the next week, Sterling rearranged his entire life. He delegated major projects to his executive team. He turned down investor meetings and board dinners. He canceled a trip to London that would have taken him away during his scheduled time with the children. His assistant, Rebecca, watched these changes with barely concealed shock. "Mr. Hawthorne, are you sure about canceling the London trip? The Atkinson deal has been in negotiations for 6 months. Reschedule it for the following week, or handle it via video conference. The trip can wait. May I ask what's more important than the Atkinson deal?" "My children." Rebecca's eyes widened. "I didn't know you had children. Neither did I until last week." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. What mattered was that he was choosing differently now. Choosing family over business. Choosing presence over profit. The night before the park meeting, Sterling couldn't sleep. He lay in his penthouse, staring at the ceiling, terrified in a way that billion-dollar deals had never made him. What if the children didn't like him? What if he said the wrong thing? What if he couldn't connect with them? What if they sensed somehow that he was the father who had abandoned their mother, and they rejected him for it? At 2 in the morning, he got up and started researching. What do 6-year-olds like? How do you talk to children? What are appropriate topics of conversation? He felt ridiculous, but he kept reading. At 9:30 the next morning, Sterling stood near the Bethesda Fountain. In Central Park, more nervous than he'd ever been in his life. He'd negotiated with hostile boards, pitched to skeptical investors, built an empire from calculated risks. None of it had prepared him for this. At exactly 10 o'clock, he saw them. Delilah walking toward him, holding hands with 2 small figures who kept looking up at her with questions he couldn't hear. She looked better than she had in the hospital. Still too thin, still tired, but healthier. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no artifice, just Delilah, and she was more beautiful than any woman he'd ever seen. The children walked on either side of her, Jasper in a blue jacket and Autumn in purple. They were small for 6, probably because they'd been premature, but they moved with confidence, with curiosity, with the kind of security that came from being deeply loved. Delilah had done that. She'd given them that foundation. Sterling stood as they approached, trying to look calm despite his racing heart. "Kids, this is Mr. Hawthorne. He's a colleague of mine from work. He wanted to meet you." Both children looked up at him with identical expressions of cautious interest. "Hello." Sterling's voice came out rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat. "It's very nice to meet you both. Are you a doctor too? Autumn asked, and Sterling realized she must think he worked at the hospital. No. I run a technology company. We make software that helps people do their jobs better. Jasper tilted his head. That sounds boring. Sterling surprised himself by laughing. A genuine, delighted laugh that made Autumn smile, and Delilah's expression soften slightly. You know what? It can be boring sometimes. Very boring. What do you like to do that's not boring? I like to build things. Lego and blocks and anything I can stack up really high. And I like to read about how machines work. He's really good at it too. Autumn added loyally. My brother built a whole city out of Lego. It had cars and buildings and even a working elevator. Sterling felt something swell in his chest. Pride. That was pride in his son's accomplishments. That sounds incredibly impressive. Do you like building things too, Autumn? Not really. I like stories. Writing them and reading them and making up characters and adventures. Mommy says I have a big imagination. Your mom is absolutely right. Being a storyteller is a very important job. What kind of stories do you write? Adventure stories mostly. About kids who go on quests and have to be brave and help each other and save the world. Sterling knelt down so he was at their eye level. That sounds like exactly the kind of story the world needs. Can I ask what the bravest thing you've written about? Autumn thought for a moment, her small face serious. A girl who has to cross a scary bridge to save her brother. She's really afraid of heights, but she does it anyway, because love is stronger than fear. The simple statement, delivered with such conviction, made Sterling's throat tight. That's beautiful, Autumn. Your mom must be very proud of you. She is. Delilah's voice was soft. I'm proud of both of them. Every single day. The next hour passed faster than Sterling thought possible. They walked to the playground. He pushed them on the swings. He watched Jasper navigate the climbing structure with careful precision, while Autumn narrated elaborate stories about the game they were playing. He learned that Jasper's favorite color was blue because it was the color of the ocean, and the ocean was full of things people hadn't discovered yet. He learned that Autumn's favorite food was pancakes, but only if they were shaped like animals. He learned that they both loved their mother fiercely and their grandmother Diane almost as much. He learned that they were kind to other children on the playground, that they shared without being asked, that Jasper was protective of his sister and Autumn was gentle with younger kids. He learned that Delilah had raised two extraordinary human beings. Mr. Hawthorne? Jasper appeared in front of him, slightly out of breath from playing. Yes, buddy. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you want to meet us? Mommy doesn't usually introduce us to people from work. Sterling glanced at Delilah, who was listening while pretending to watch Autumn on the slide. Because when I helped you that night when your mom was sick, I thought you were very brave, and I wanted to get to know you better. Jasper studied him with that unnerving directness. Do you have kids? The question hit Sterling like a punch. Not that I've gotten to know, no. That's sad. Kids are fun. Well, except when Autumn takes my Legos without asking. Then they're annoying. Autumn stuck her tongue out at her brother, and they both laughed. When the hour was up, Sterling felt like it had lasted 5 minutes. We should go. Delilah's voice was gentle but firm. Kids, say thank you to Mr. Hawthorne for spending time with you. Thank you. They said it in unison, then looked at each other and giggled. Autumn surprised Sterling by stepping forward and hugging his legs. You're nice. Can we see you again? Sterling looked at Delilah over Autumn's head. That's up to your mom. Can we, Mommy? Jasper joined his sister in lobbying. He's fun, and he listened to all my ideas about my Lego city, and he didn't tell Autumn her stories were babyish like some grown-ups do. Delilah's eyes met Sterling's, and he saw the war still happening there. Fear and hope and determination to protect her children at all costs. We'll see. The universal parent answer that meant maybe. As they walked away, both children turned to wave. Sterling waved back, watching until they disappeared into the crowd of weekend park visitors. His phone buzzed. A text from Delilah. Same time next week? Sterling felt something in his chest loosen slightly. I'll be there. And he was. The next week and the week after that. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., Central Park, 1 hour with his children, while Delilah watched with careful eyes. He learned more about them with each visit. Jasper's methodical approach to problems, his tendency to observe before acting, his protective instinct toward his sister. Autumn's creativity, her emotional intelligence, her ability to make friends with everyone she met. He started bringing things to their meetings, a complicated Lego set for Jasper that they built together over 3 weeks, a journal with a beautiful cover for Autumn to write her stories in. Nothing extravagant, nothing that screamed of wealth trying to buy affection, just thoughtful gifts that showed he paid attention. The children started calling him Sterling instead of Mr. Hawthorne. They started running to him when they arrived instead of hanging back. They started telling him about their week, about school, about their friends, and Delilah started relaxing incrementally. She still watched every interaction, still maintained careful boundaries. But Sterling occasionally caught her smiling at something he said to the children. Sometimes she even joined their conversations instead of maintaining observer distance. 2 months in, Sterling's lawyer called. "I have the information you requested about paternity rights. I don't need it anymore." Elliot sounded surprised. "You don't?" "No. I'm building a relationship with them the right way, by earning their trust, not demanding my legal rights." "That's unusually patient of you. This isn't business, Elliot. This is family. And family requires patience." After he hung up, Sterling sat in his office looking at the photos he'd started keeping on his desk. Jasper concentrating on a Lego build, Autumn laughing at something with her whole face. A candid shot Rebecca had taken of Sterling with both children. He was building something more valuable than his entire company. He was building trust, connection, love. And for the first time in 7 years, Sterling Hawthorne felt like he might actually be doing something right. 3 months into weekly visits, something shifted. Sterling arrived at the park to find Jasper excited about a school science fair project he was working on. It's about renewable energy, how we can use solar and wind power instead of coal and oil. "But I'm stuck on the design for the display board. Have you thought about making it interactive?" Sterling suggested. "Maybe something that shows how solar panels convert light to energy?" Jasper's eyes lit up. "Could we do that?" Sterling looked at Delilah, silently asking permission to exceed the boundaries of their park visits. "I could help you build a working model, if your mom says it's okay." Delilah hesitated, and Sterling saw the fear in her eyes. Letting him deeper into their lives meant greater risk, more opportunity for disappointment. "Please, Mommy," Jasper pleaded. "Sterling knows about technology, and I really want my project to be special." "Okay." Delilah's voice was quiet. "But it has to be at our house. And I'll be there the whole time." "Of course." The following Wednesday evening, Sterling arrived at Delilah's Brooklyn brownstone with supplies for the solar panel model. The house was beautiful in a way his penthouse could never be. It was warm, lived in, full of the chaos and joy of children. Artwork covered the refrigerator. Books overflowed the shelves. Photos documented every stage of the twins' lives. 7 years of memories Sterling had missed. He and Jasper spent 2 hours building the model while Autumn did homework at the kitchen table and Delilah cooked dinner. The domesticity of it all made Sterling's chest ache. This was what he could have had, should have had. "Mr. Hawthorne, you should stay for dinner." Autumn announced it as fact rather than invitation. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm sure he has plans." Delilah's voice was careful. "Actually, I don't, but I don't want to intrude." "You're not intruding." Jasper looked up from the solar panel model. "You're helping with my project. That means you get to eat with us. Right, Mom?" Delilah met Sterling's eyes across the kitchen, and he saw the moment she made a choice. "Set another place at the table, Autumn." Dinner was chaotic and wonderful. The children talked over each other, telling stories about school and friends. Delilah gently reminded them about manners and eating their vegetables. Sterling sat at the table and felt more at home than he'd felt in his own penthouse in years. "This is really good," he told Delilah honestly. She'd made a simple pasta dish with salad, nothing fancy. "Thank you. It's one of the few things I can make that both kids will actually eat without complaining." "I don't complain," Jasper protested. "You complained last week that the chicken was too chickeny," Autumn reminded him. Because it was. The siblings bickered good-naturedly while Sterling and Delilah shared a look of parental amusement. After dinner, Sterling helped clean up while the children got ready for bed. "You don't have to do that." Delilah took the dish he was drying from his hands. "I want to." Their fingers brushed, and both pulled back like they'd been burned. "Sterling," Delilah's voice was quiet. "What are we doing here?" "I'm getting to know my children. Is that all?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and danger. Before Sterling could answer, small footsteps thundered down the stairs. Sterling, will you read us a bedtime story? Autumn appeared in the kitchen doorway in princess pajamas. Oh, honey, Sterling needs to go home. Please, Mommy. Just one story. Jasper joined his sister in pleading. If it's okay with your mom. Sterling looked at Delilah, letting her make the call. One story. Then bed. No arguments. 20 minutes later, Sterling sat wedged between two 6-year-olds in Jasper's room, reading a story about dragons and brave knights and impossible quests. Autumn provided sound effects. Jasper asked questions about dragon biology, and Sterling fell more in love with these two small humans with every page. When the story ended, Autumn yawned. Can Sterling read to us every night? He doesn't live here, baby. Delilah stood in the doorway, watching. Why not? Autumn's question was innocent, but it detonated like a bomb in the room. Because this is your and Mommy's house. I have my own home, but you're here all the time now anyway. Jasper pointed out with typical 6-year-old logic. Not all the time, buddy. Just when I'm invited. You're always invited. Autumn declared. Okay, that's enough. Bedtime. Now. Delilah moved into the room, herding children toward their respective beds. Can Sterling come to my school science fair? Jasper asked, as Delilah tucked him in. That's 2 weeks away, love. We'll see. But we worked on the project together. He should get to see it at the fair. Delilah looked at Sterling, who remained carefully neutral. If Sterling's available, he's welcome to come. I'm available. The words came out before Sterling could think better of them. Then, you can come. Jasper's smile was bright enough to light the room. After the children were finally settled, Sterling and Delilah stood awkwardly in her living room. Thank you for letting me stay. For dinner and the story. They asked for you. I won't keep you from them when they want you here. Sterling heard the unspoken word, but I'm terrified. Delilah's voice was barely a whisper. They're getting attached to you. They talk about you constantly. Jasper wants your opinion on everything he builds. Autumn writes stories about you saving the day. And if you decide this is too much, if you walk away, it will destroy them. I'm not going to walk away. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Sterling took a step closer. Delilah, I know I don't have the right to ask you to trust me. I know my track record is abysmal. But those 2 kids upstairs are the best thing that's ever happened to me. Getting to know them, being part of their lives, it's not a burden or an obligation. It's a gift. And I'm not walking away from that. Not ever. You say that now. I'll still be saying it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Delilah's eyes filled with tears. I want to believe you. Then believe me. Give me the chance to prove I've changed. You're already proving it. That's what scares me. She wiped at her eyes impatiently. You show up every week. You remember details about their lives. You brought supplies to help with a science project instead of just writing a check. You sat on Jasper's bed reading stories about dragons. You're being the father they deserve, and I don't know how to protect them if you stop. Then trust that I won't stop. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. I made the worst mistake of my life 7 years ago. I'm not making it again. For a moment they stood there, hands linked, years of pain and possibility flowing between them. Then Delilah gently pulled away. You should go. It's late. Okay. Sterling moved toward the door, then paused. Delilah, for what it's worth, I'm not just doing this for them. I'm doing it for us. For the chance that maybe someday you might forgive me. That maybe we could be a family the way we should have been all along. Sterling. Her voice stopped him. I don't know if that's possible, but you don't know that it's impossible either. No. I don't. That's enough for now. As Sterling drove home through Brooklyn, his phone buzzed with a text. Thank you for tonight. They went to sleep happy. That's all I've ever wanted for them. It was from Delilah. He typed back, thank you for letting me be part of their happiness. I'll see you Saturday. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a single word. Saturday. Sterling smiled. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was progress, and progress was enough. 4 months into their new routine, Sterling's life had transformed in ways he never could have anticipated. His penthouse, once a sterile showpiece of wealth and success, now had children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. Lego sets covered the dining room table. Books about space exploration and creative writing sat on the coffee table next to his Wall Street journals. The children had started spending occasional afternoons at his place, just a few hours at first, with Delilah picking them up promptly at the agreed time. Then, an occasional Saturday overnight when Delilah had a work deadline. Sterling had converted his guest room into a kid's room. Twin beds with astronaut and artist-themed bedding, a bookshelf already overflowing, a building table for Jasper's endless construction projects, a cozy reading nook for Autumn's storytelling. His assistant Rebecca had nearly fainted the first time she saw him leave the office at 3 in the afternoon. "I have to pick up the kids from school." Sterling had said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Rebecca had blinked. "The kids? Jasper and Autumn. They have early dismissal on Wednesdays." The fact that Sterling Hawthorne, notorious workaholic billionaire, was adjusting his schedule around elementary school dismissal times was apparently too much for Rebecca to process. Now, standing outside PS 234 with a cluster of other parents and nannies, Sterling felt more at peace than he'd felt in his entire adult life. He saw them before they saw him. Two small figures bursting out of the school doors with the energy only 6-year-olds possessed. Jasper's backpack was nearly bigger than he was. Autumn clutched a paper she'd clearly been working on. Then Autumn spotted him. "Dad." The word stopped Sterling's heart. They'd started using it about a month ago, first tentatively, then with growing confidence. Delilah had pulled Sterling aside after the first time and asked if it was okay. "They've been asking if they could call you that. I told them only if you were comfortable with it." Sterling had needed a moment to compose himself before he could speak. "It would be the greatest honor of my life." Now, hearing that word, he felt it every single time like the first time. "Dad, look what I made in art class." Autumn thrust her paper at him. It was a watercolor painting of a family. 4 figures. A woman with dark hair, 2 small children, and a tall man with his arms around all of them. "This is beautiful, sweetheart. Is this your family?" Autumn nodded proudly. "That's Mommy, and that's me and Jasper, and that's you. Miss Peterson said we should paint the people we love most." Sterling's vision blurred slightly. "Can I keep this?" "You want to keep it? I want to frame it and put it in my office so I can look at it every day." Autumn's smile could have powered the entire city. As they walked to Sterling's car, Jasper chattered about a math problem that had stumped most of the class but that he'd solved a different way. Sterling listened, asking questions, marveling at how this small person's mind worked. They stopped for ice cream, a Wednesday tradition that had developed organically. Jasper always got chocolate. Autumn rotated through every flavor, approaching ice cream with the same creativity she brought to her stories. A business call came through while they were eating. Sterling glanced at the screen. His COO. Normally, he would have answered immediately. Instead, he sent it to voicemail. "Don't you need to get that?" Jasper asked, his face smeared with chocolate. "It can wait. Right now, I'm having ice cream with my favorite people." Such a small moment. Such an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. But to Sterling, it was everything. That evening, after he dropped the kids back at Delilah's brownstone, she invited him in for coffee. They'd fallen into an easier rhythm over the months. Still cautious, still careful, but the hostility had faded, replaced by something that felt almost like friendship. "How was your day with them?" Delilah asked as she poured coffee in her kitchen. "Perfect." Jasper solved a math problem that apparently stumped everyone. Autumn made this painting in art class. He pulled out his phone to show her the photo he'd taken. Delilah studied the image, her expression softening. "She's been talking about her family a lot lately, about how she has a mommy and a daddy now, like the other kids. Does that bother you?" Sterling asked carefully. Delilah was quiet for a moment. "No, that's what surprises me. I thought it would. I thought I'd be angry or jealous or scared. But mostly I'm just relieved that they're happy, that they have what they've been asking for. They have it because of you. You're the one who let me in when you had every reason not to. I let you in because they deserve to know their father." Delilah's eyes met his. What I didn't expect was that their father would actually show up. Not just physically, but emotionally. "You're not just going through the motions, Sterling. You genuinely love them, more than I knew it was possible to love anyone." The honesty in his voice made Delilah look away. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I've been putting off because I don't know how to navigate it." Sterling's stomach dropped. "Okay, I got offered a position. A big one. Head architect for a major sustainable housing initiative. That's incredible, Delilah. You deserve it. It's in Toronto. The words hit Sterling like a physical blow. Toronto. 5-year contract, minimum. Potentially longer if the project expands the way they're anticipating. It's everything I've dreamed of professionally. The chance to design large-scale sustainable communities that could serve as models for urban development worldwide. Sterling set down his coffee cup carefully, trying to keep his hands steady. When would you start? 3 months. They want me there by the fall to begin the design phase. And the kids would come with me. Obviously. Delilah's voice was tight. Sterling, this is my career. This is the opportunity I've worked toward for years. The kind of thing that comes along once in a lifetime. I understand. Do you? Because you don't exactly look understanding right now. I'm trying to process the fact that you're talking about moving my children to another country. The words came out harsher than Sterling intended. Delilah's eyes flashed. Your children? They were my children for 7 years before you even knew they existed. They're my children, who I've raised and sacrificed for and built my entire life around. And this decision affects my career, my future, my ability to provide for them. You're right. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. Sterling ran his hands through his hair. I'm not trying to control your career or your decisions. I'm just trying to figure out how to be their father if they're in Toronto and I'm here. You could visit. Weekends. Holidays. FaceTime calls. She was offering logistics when he was bleeding emotion. That's not being a father, Delilah. That's being a visiting stranger. I've spent 4 months building a relationship with them. I pick them up from school. I help with homework. I read bedtime stories. I know that Jasper likes his sandwiches cut diagonally and Autumn can't sleep without her stuffed elephant. I know these things because I'm there. How do I keep being there if they're 500 miles away? I don't know. Delilah's voice cracked. I don't know how to solve this. 6 months ago, it would have been a simple decision. Take the job. Move. Build my career. But now there's you, and they love you, and moving them away from you would hurt them. But turning down this opportunity would hurt me, and eventually I'd resent them for it, and that would hurt them too. She pressed her palms against her eyes. I'm so tired of impossible choices. I'm tired of having to choose between my career and my family. 7 years ago, you made me feel like those things were incompatible, like I couldn't be a good mother and have professional ambitions. And I proved you wrong. I built a career and raised incredible kids, but now I'm facing the same choice again, and I hate it. Sterling moved closer to her. You're not facing the same choice. Yes, I am. No. 7 years ago, I made you choose. I was rigid and selfish, and I put my ego ahead of our relationship. I made you feel like you had to pick between me and your dreams. He took a deep breath. I won't make that mistake again. What does that mean? It means I'll come with you. Delilah stared at him. What? I'll relocate to Toronto. I can run Hawthorne Enterprises from anywhere. We've been discussing international expansion anyway. Toronto makes sense strategically. Sterling, you can't just uproot your entire life. Why not? You did it 7 years ago. You turned down Copenhagen, rearranged your career, built a life around raising our children alone. The least I can do is follow your lead. But your company is based in New York. Your whole life is here. My children are my life, and they need to be where their mother's career takes them. So that's where I need to be too. Delilah's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand you. I love you. The words fell into the space between them like a bomb. I never stopped loving you, even when I was with Genevieve, even when I was trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice. Part of me always knew I'd thrown away the only woman I'd ever really love. Sterling. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not asking you to forgive me or give us another chance. I'm just asking you to let me support your dreams the way I should have 7 years ago. Let me be the partner I should have been. Let me show you that I've changed. You broke my heart. I know. You shattered it so completely that I didn't think I'd ever be whole again. I know. And I'm sorry. I will spend the rest of my life being sorry for that. Delilah wiped at her tears angrily. The kids need stability, then I'll provide it. In New York or Toronto or anywhere else you need to be. She looked at him for a long moment, and Sterling saw the war happening in her eyes, fear and hope, and the terrible vulnerability of wanting to believe. This doesn't mean we're together. I know. This doesn't mean I've forgiven you. I understand. This just means I'm willing to see if you actually mean what you say. That's all I'm asking for." Delilah took a shaky breath. "I'm taking the Toronto position. Okay. And if you're serious about relocating, I'll help you find a place near us. Separate. The kids can split time between both homes. Whatever works best for you and them. And Sterling? The minute this becomes about us instead of about them, we reassess." "Understood." "Completely." After Sterling left that night, he sat in his car outside her brownstone for a long time, processing what had just happened. He was moving to Toronto, leaving New York, the city he'd built his empire in, leaving the headquarters of Hawthorne Enterprises, leaving everything familiar, for a woman who might never forgive him and children who were only beginning to trust him. 7 years ago, he would have called it insane, poor business sense, emotional decision-making. Now, he called it the smartest choice he'd ever made. He pulled out his phone and called his executive team for an emergency meeting the next morning. At 8 a.m., Sterling sat at the head of his conference table with his COO, CFO, and head of operations. "I'm relocating to Toronto in 3 months." The silence was deafening. His COO, Michael, spoke first. "For how long?" "Indefinitely. 5 years minimum." His CFO, Janet, leaned forward. "May I ask why?" "My children are moving there with their mother for her career. I'm going to be near them." "You have children?" Apparently, Sterling had shocked his executive team twice in as many months. 6-year-old twins. "And yes, before you ask, this is a recent development." Michael cleared his throat. "Sterling, I don't think you've thought this through. The company is based here. Our investors are here. The board expects you to be present. The board will adjust. So will the investors. We've been discussing international expansion for 2 years. Toronto is a strong market. This accelerates those plans." Janet pulled out her tablet, already running numbers. Setting up a satellite office in Toronto would require significant capital investment, 6 to 8 months minimum. Then we expedite it. I want it operational in 3 months. That's not realistic. Make it realistic. That's what I pay you for. His head of operations, Richard, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "Are we talking about a satellite office or full relocation of headquarters?" "Satellite for now, but I need full operational capacity, video conferencing capabilities for board meetings, secure servers for sensitive data. Everything I can do from New York, I need to be able to do from Toronto." Richard nodded slowly. "It's doable. Expensive and complicated, but doable." "Then make it happen." After the meeting, Michael stayed behind. "Can I speak frankly?" "Always. You're making a massive business decision based on personal reasons. That's not like you." Sterling looked at the man who'd been his right hand for 8 years. "You're right. It's not like the old me. The old me put business first, last, and always. The old me measured success in quarterly earnings and stock prices. The old me threw away the best thing that ever happened to him because he was too proud to admit he was wrong. And the new you? The new me understands that there are things more valuable than money. Like being there when my son wins his science fair. Like reading bedtime stories to my daughter. Like not missing another 7 years of their lives." Michael studied him for a moment. "You're different. Happier. I am. Then I'll make Toronto work." After Michael left, Sterling called his grandmother. A conversation he'd been dreading. She answered on the second ring. "Sterling, I was hoping you'd come to your senses about this Bennett woman." "I'm moving to Toronto, grandmother." Silence. "I'm sorry, what?" "Delilah has been offered an incredible career opportunity in Toronto. She's taking it, and I'm relocating to be near my children. This is absurd. You're going to uproot your entire life, abandon your responsibilities here, for some woman who trapped you with children." "Stop right there." Sterling's voice was cold. "Delilah didn't trap me with anything. She raised our children alone while I was too blind and stupid to realize what I'd lost. She's an incredible mother and a brilliant architect. And she's not some woman. She's the mother of my children, and the only woman I've ever truly loved. You're thinking with your heart instead of your head. For the first time in my life, yes. And I should have started doing that years ago. Your grandfather built this company. Your father expanded it. You have a legacy to uphold, and I have children to raise. That's my legacy now, grandmother. Not stock prices or board meetings. 2 amazing kids who deserve to have both parents present in their lives. You're making a mistake." The only mistake I made was listening to you 7 years ago when you told me Delilah wasn't good enough for our family. She was always too good for me. I just couldn't see it. Constance's voice grew cold. If you do this, if you choose her over your family obligations, don't expect my support. I stopped expecting your support the moment I realized your approval came with conditions. Real family doesn't work that way. Real family shows up. Real family supports each other's happiness. Real family doesn't make you choose between love and legacy. Sterling, I love you, grandmother. I do, but I'm done living my life according to your expectations. I'm 42 years old, and for the first time, I'm making choices based on what's right for me and my family. My real family. Delilah, Jasper, and Autumn. If you walk away from Hawthorne Enterprises for this woman, you'll regret it. I already have one lifetime of regrets from walking away from her. I won't create more by making the same mistake twice. He hung up before she could respond. His hands were shaking. He'd never stood up to Constance Hawthorne like that. Never chosen his own path over her guidance. It felt terrifying and liberating in equal measure. That weekend, Sterling sat down with Jasper and Autumn to talk about the move. Delilah had suggested they tell the children together, presenting it as a family decision, even though the adults had already made the choice. Kids, your mom and I need to talk to you about something important. They sat in Delilah's living room, both children on the couch between their parents. Are you in trouble? Jasper asked with 6-year-old concern. No, sweetheart. Delilah took his hand. But there's going to be a big change. Mommy got offered a really important job in a different city, a place called Toronto. Where's Toronto? Autumn asked. It's in Canada, about 8 hours away by car. We'd have to move there so Mommy can do her new job. Jasper's face fell. Move away from here? From our school and our friends? I know it's scary. Delilah pulled him close. Change is always a little scary, but it's also an adventure. You'd go to a new school and make new friends. And we'd have a house with a backyard. What about Dad? Autumn's quiet question made both adults' breath catch. What about me? Sterling asked gently. Would you come too? Or would we have to leave you here like we leave our friends? The pain in that small voice nearly broke him. I'm coming too. I'm going to move to Toronto so I can be close to you guys. Really? Jasper's face brightened. Really? I'll have my own place nearby, and you can stay with me sometimes just like you do now. I'll still pick you up from school and help with homework and read bedtime stories. So we wouldn't lose you? Autumn asked. You could never lose me. I'm your dad. That doesn't change no matter where we live. Jasper was quiet for a moment, processing with his characteristic thoughtfulness. Will your job be in Toronto too? I can do my job from anywhere. And I already told my team I'm moving. Autumn looked between her parents with the emotional intelligence that constantly surprised Sterling. Mommy, you seem happier when Dad's around. Delilah's eyes widened. What makes you say that? You smile more. And you laugh at his jokes even when they're not funny. And sometimes I see you looking at him when you think we're not watching. Out of the mouths of babes. Jasper joined in. And Dad looks at you the same way. Like how Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in my storybooks. Sterling and Delilah carefully avoided looking at each other. Your dad and I are friends. Delilah's voice was gentle. We're working together to take care of you guys. Do you love him? Autumn asked with devastating directness. That's complicated, sweetheart. Why? You either love someone or you don't. That's what you always tell us. Delilah was saved from answering by Jasper's next question. Can I bring all my Legos to Toronto? Of course. Good. Then I think moving is okay, as long as we're all together. The simplicity of it made Sterling's chest tight. As long as we're all together. That's all that mattered to these children. Not the house or the city or the school, just that their family stayed intact. I need to pause here because what just happened is so important. These children, who've only known their father for a few months, are already prioritizing family unity over everything else. They're teaching the adults what really matters. If you're feeling the emotional weight of this moment, if you understand why Sterling's decision to move is so significant, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between career and family? How did you decide? Share your story below because your experiences matter. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now because this story is about to take a turn that will test everything we've seen so far. Hit that like button if you believe love is worth fighting for, and let's continue this journey together. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of logistics and emotions. Sterling worked with Richard to set up the Toronto office. He purchased a condo 10 minutes from the house Delilah had rented. He arranged for the children to attend the same excellent private school, making sure they'd be in the same class together for the transition. He flew to Toronto twice to oversee the office setup and furniture selection for his new place. Both times he video called Jasper and Autumn to show them his progress. Look, this is going to be your room at my place. He'd created another space just for them, similar to his New York setup but better. More toys, more books, more evidence that they were wanted and expected and loved. Moving day was chaotic. Sterling had arranged for professional movers for both households. Delilah had protested the expense, but he'd insisted. Let me do this, please. It's one less thing for you to worry about. She'd agreed, and Sterling had noticed her agreeing to his help more often lately. Small things. Letting him pick up the kids when she was running late. Accepting his offer to handle the logistics of transferring school records. Not fighting every gesture. Progress. They drove to Toronto in convoy. Delilah, with the kids in her car. Sterling following behind in his. The 8-hour drive gave him plenty of time to think about what he was doing. Leaving New York, the city that had been his home for 42 years. The headquarters of everything he'd built, for the possibility of being part of this family. For children who were only beginning to know him, and a woman who might never fully trust him again. And he'd never been more certain of anything in his life. Toronto welcomed them with autumn colors and a fresh start. Delilah's rented house was beautiful. 4 bedrooms in a family-friendly neighborhood. A backyard where the kids could play. Close to parks and the excellent school district. Sterling's condo was modern and efficient. 3 bedrooms, office space for video conferences, and that special room just for Jasper and Autumn. The first few weeks were about adjustment. New school for the kids. New office setup for Sterling. New project for Delilah. They all navigated the changes with varying degrees of success. Jasper made friends immediately, his natural leadership drawing other kids to him. Autumn took longer, more cautious about opening up. But Sterling watched her slowly connect with a girl in her class who loved writing stories too. The custody arrangement they'd worked out was fluid. Kids with Delilah during the week, Sterling picking them up after school 3 days a week. Weekends split between both homes. Wednesday nights became family dinners. All 4 of them, sometimes at Delilah's house, sometimes at Sterling's, always together. It felt like playing house, like pretending to be a family, except the feelings Sterling had were anything but pretend. He loved these Wednesday nights, loved the chaos of cooking together, loved the children's chatter about school, loved the moments when Delilah laughed at something he said, and her whole face transformed. He was falling more in love with her every day. Or maybe he was just allowing himself to feel what had never really gone away. 6 months into their Toronto life, things shifted again. Delilah's project was going incredibly well. Her designs were being praised as innovative and practical. She was in her element, and Sterling loved watching her thrive. His own business was adapting. Video conferences with the New York team. Quarterly trips back for board meetings. Michael and Janet handling day-to-day operations with impressive efficiency. Sterling discovered he didn't need to micromanage everything. The company ran fine without him hovering over every decision. What he needed was here, in Toronto, with his family. The children were flourishing too. Jasper had joined a robotics club. Autumn was in the creative writing program. Both were happy and settled. And then came the call that changed everything. Sterling was in his home office on a Thursday afternoon when his phone rang. The school. Mr. Hawthorne. This is Principal Matthews from Lakeview Academy. His blood ran cold at her tone. What's wrong? There's been an accident. Jasper was on the climbing structure during recess and part of it collapsed. He's being transported to Toronto General Hospital now. Is he okay? He's conscious, and we've notified emergency services. His injuries appear to be a broken leg and possible concussion. We've also called Ms. Bennett. I'm on my way. Sterling grabbed his keys and was out the door in seconds. He called Delilah while navigating Toronto traffic. Did the school call you? I'm already in my car. Her voice was tight with fear. Sterling, what if he's seriously hurt? What if there's internal bleeding or brain damage or... He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine because he's our son and he's strong and resilient. Our son. The words felt natural now. They arrived at the hospital within minutes of each other, both of them running toward the emergency room entrance. Delilah saw him, and without thinking, reached for his hand. Sterling held on tight. Jasper Hawthorne Bennett. Sterling gave the name to the registration desk, not even thinking about the hyphenation that had appeared on the Toronto school registration forms. The nurse checked her computer. He's being evaluated now. The doctor will update you shortly. You can wait in the family consultation room. The family consultation room. They were a family, in crisis, holding on to each other. Sterling and Delilah sat in uncomfortable chairs, hands still linked, both of them cycling through worst-case scenarios. He has to be okay. Delilah's voice shook. He has to be. I can't lose him. I can't lose my baby. You won't. We won't. Sterling pulled her closer, and she buried her face in his chest, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. He's all I thought about for 7 years. Keeping them safe, keeping them healthy and happy. And now he's hurt, and I wasn't there, and what if I lose him? You won't lose him. Delilah, look at me. Sterling tilted her face up. Jasper is strong. He's brave. He's going to be fine. And whatever happens, we face it together. Together. She said the word like she was testing it out. Together. He confirmed. The door opened, and a doctor in scrubs entered. Mr. and Mrs. Hawthorne Bennett. Neither corrected the assumption. Your son is stable. He has a broken tibia that will require a cast for 6 to 8 weeks. Some bruising and scrapes. We did a CT scan for the head injury and there's no sign of concussion. He was very lucky. The relief was overwhelming. Can we see him? Of course. He's been asking for both of you. Jasper looked small in the hospital bed. His leg was already in a temporary cast. His face was scraped and bruised. But he was awake and alert, and when he saw his parents, his face crumpled. Mom, Dad. They rushed to his bedside, both of them trying to hug him carefully around his injuries. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I scared you. Oh, baby, you have nothing to be sorry for. Delilah kissed his forehead. Accidents happen. The important thing is, you're okay. Does it hurt? Sterling asked. A little, but they gave me medicine. Dad, I was really scared when I was falling. I bet you were. But you were so brave. The school said you didn't even cry until the ambulance came. I tried to be brave like in Autumn's stories. The mention of his sister made Jasper's eyes widen. Where's Autumn? Does she know what happened? Grandma Diane is picking her up from school. They're on their way. Diane had flown into Toronto a month ago to help Delilah settle in. Her presence had been a blessing, giving the kids a sense of continuity and family. True to form, Diane arrived 20 minutes later with a very worried Autumn. Jasper. Autumn ran to her brother's bedside, tears streaming down her face. I thought you died. They said you fell and I thought you died. I didn't die. I'm okay. Just a broken leg. Look, I get a cast and you can draw on it. Really? Really? The doctor said people can sign it and decorate it. The twins held hands, and Sterling felt his throat close up at their bond. The doctor returned with discharge instructions. Jasper could go home that evening. 6 weeks in a cast. Crutches. Follow-up appointments. I'll take the next few weeks off work. Delilah said immediately, no. Sterling touched her arm. You have that big presentation next week, the one you've been preparing for months. I'll take the time off. I can work from home and take care of him. Sterling, you can't just stop running your company. I absolutely can. That's the benefit of good delegation and modern technology. Michael and Janet can handle operations. I'll be available via video conference for anything urgent. But I'm not missing this. I'm not letting you carry this burden alone like you had to before. Delilah's eyes filled with tears. You'd really do that? I'd do anything for him. For them. For you. That night, after Jasper was settled in Delilah's guest room downstairs, so he wouldn't have to navigate stairs, after Autumn had fallen asleep, on the couch from exhaustion, after Diane had made tea and quietly retreated to her room, Sterling and Delilah stood in her kitchen. Thank you. Her voice was soft. For being there today, for holding me together when I was falling apart, for offering to take care of Jasper so I don't have to choose between my child and my career. You'll never have to make that choice. Not while I'm here. Sterling. She stepped closer. I've been so scared. Of what? Of this. Of letting you back in. of trusting you with my heart again. Because when you left before, it nearly destroyed me. And now you're here, and you're being everything I always wished you could be. And I'm terrified that I'll believe in us, and then you'll change your mind. I won't change my mind. How can you be sure? Because I've lived without you, Delilah. I've spent 7 years in the gray wasteland of a life without real love. I was married to a woman I didn't love, trying to convince myself that compatibility was enough. I built an empire that felt hollow because I had no one I cared about to share it with. He took both her hands. And then I got a phone call at 2:47 in the morning. A little boy crying for his mother, and in 8 minutes, my entire world shifted. Because that little boy led me back to you, back to the family I should have had all along, back to the only woman I've ever truly loved. I think about that night 7 years ago constantly, the things I said to you, how I made you feel small and selfish for having ambitions, how I walked away like our love meant nothing. His voice broke. I was so wrong, about everything, and I have spent 7 years paying for that mistake. But Delilah, I won't make it again. I won't walk away when things get hard. I won't choose pride over partnership. I won't ever make you choose between loving me and being yourself. Sterling, she was crying now. I want to believe you. I want to so badly. Then believe me. Take a leap of faith. Let me love you the way I should have 7 years ago. I'm scared. So am I. I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of not taking this chance, of letting fear keep us apart when we could be together, when we could give Jasper and Autumn the family they deserve. He leaned his forehead against hers. I love you, Delilah Bennett. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. I love your strength and your brilliance and your fierce protection of our children. I love the way you've built an incredible life from nothing. I love how you've forgiven me enough to let me be part of that life. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve your love. Delilah's hands came up to frame his face. I never stopped loving you, even when I hated you, even when I thought I'd buried those feelings so deep they'd never surface. I never stopped. Then let me love you back. Let us be a family, not just for the kids, but for us. She kissed him, soft and tentative at first, then deeper. 7 years of longing and pain and hope poured into that kiss. When they pulled apart, both were crying. This doesn't mean I'm not still scared. I know. And it doesn't mean everything is fixed. I know that too. But maybe we could try to be us again. Or maybe a better version of us. I would like nothing more. They stood there in her kitchen, holding each other, and something clicked into place. Something that had been broken for 7 years finally healed. Autumn's voice came from the doorway. Are you kissing? Both adults jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Autumn stood there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Baby, what are you doing up? I heard talking. Are you and Dad together now? Like married people? Sterling and Delilah looked at each other. We're figuring things out, sweetheart, Delilah said carefully. But yes, your dad and I care about each other very much. Good. Autumn yawned. Jasper will be happy. He told me he wished you'd get married so we could all live together. Did he now? Sterling smiled. He made me promise not to tell, but I think promises don't count when they make people happy. With that 6-year-old logic, Autumn padded back to the couch and her blanket. Sterling and Delilah stood in the kitchen, processing what had just happened. Our children are matchmaking us. Delilah's voice held wonder. Smart kids. They get that from their mother. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Sterling took care of Jasper during his recovery. He worked from Delilah's house, laptop at the kitchen table, while Jasper did homework or read on the couch. They played board games. They watched documentaries about engineering. They talked about everything and nothing. Sterling learned that his son was curious about everything, thoughtful in his observations, and surprisingly philosophical for a 6-year-old. Dad, why did you and Mom not stay together before? Jasper asked one afternoon. Sterling had known this question would come eventually. I made some very bad choices. I let other people's opinions matter more than my own heart. I didn't support your mom the way I should have. Did you love her? Very much. I still do. Does she love you? I think so. I hope so. Jasper considered this with characteristic seriousness. I think she does. She smiles more when you're around. And she laughs at your jokes even when they're terrible. Sterling laughed. My jokes are not terrible. Dad, Your jokes are so bad that Autumn groans before you even get to the punchline. Fair point. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. I'm glad you're here now, even if you weren't before. The simple forgiveness in that statement made Sterling's eyes burn. Me too, buddy. Me too. 6 weeks after the accident, Jasper got his cast removed. The doctor declared him fully healed and cleared for normal activities. To celebrate, they went out to dinner as a family. All 4 of them, plus Diane. At the restaurant, Jasper stood up with his water glass. I want to make a toast. Everyone looked at him in surprise. I'm really glad I broke my leg, Jasper. Delilah looked horrified. Not because breaking bones is fun, but because it made Mom and Dad realize they should be together. So thank you to my leg for being broken at exactly the right time. Autumn giggled. That's the weirdest toast ever, but not wrong. Diane added quietly, smiling at Sterling and Delilah. After dinner, walking back to the car, Jasper took Sterling's hand and Autumn took Delilah's. Then, without planning it, they switched so each child held one parent's hand, linking them all together. Delilah looked over the children's heads at Sterling and mouthed 3 words. I love you. Sterling mouthed back. I love you too. That night, after the kids were in bed, Sterling didn't leave. Stay, Delilah said simply. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm tired of being scared. Tired of protecting myself from possibility. I want this. I want us. He stayed. And when he woke up the next morning with Delilah in his arms, sunlight streaming through the windows, the sound of children laughing downstairs, Sterling felt complete for the first time in 7 years. This was what he'd been missing. Not just love, but this specific love, this specific family, this specific life. The next few months were about building their new normal. Sterling didn't move out of his condo immediately. They took it slow, mindful of the children's adjustment. But he spent most nights at Delilah's house, most mornings having breakfast with his family, most evenings helping with homework and reading bedtime stories. It felt natural, right? Like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. Delilah's project continued to excel. Sterling's business adapted beautifully to his Toronto base. The children thrived with both parents present and clearly committed to each other. 8 months after moving to Toronto, Sterling took the children to pick out a ring. I'm going to ask your mom to marry me, but I wanted to make sure you both were okay with that first. Jasper pumped his fist. Yes, finally. Autumn clapped her hands. Can I help plan the wedding? I have so many ideas. We'll plan it together, Sterling promised. All of us. The proposal happened on a Saturday morning. No fancy restaurant. No elaborate production. Just Sterling and Delilah and the kids in the backyard of her Toronto house. The children had made signs. Autumn had painted an elaborate poster that said, "Will you marry us?" with portraits of all 4 of them. Jasper had built a Lego structure that spelled out, "Please say yes." Delilah walked into the backyard to find her entire family waiting. Sterling got down on one knee. Delilah Bennett, 7 years ago I let you go because I was too proud and stupid to see what I had. You raised our children with grace and strength. You built an incredible career. You gave me a second chance I absolutely didn't deserve. You taught me what real love looks like. He pulled out the ring. I can't promise I'll be perfect. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise that I will never walk away again. I will support your dreams. I will be your partner in every sense of the word. I will love you and our children with everything in me for the rest of my life. Tears streamed down Delilah's face. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and give our family the future we should have had all along? Yes. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her while Jasper and Autumn cheered. They were getting married. They were becoming official. They were finally, completely, beautifully whole. The wedding was 6 months later. Small and intimate. Delilah's Brooklyn brownstone backyard. Close friends and family only. Even Constance Hawthorne came, humbled by time and the realization that she'd almost cost her grandson everything that mattered. She approached Delilah before the ceremony. I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. I was wrong about you. Wrong to influence Sterling against you. Wrong to value pedigree over character. It's in the past, Delilah said graciously. No, it's not. It cost you both 7 years. It cost me 7 years with my great-grandchildren. And I need you to know that I see now what I was too blind to see then. You're exactly what Sterling needed, what he needs. And those children are the greatest legacy our family could ask for. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. Jasper and Autumn served as best man and maid of honor, standing beside their parents with matching grins. Sterling's vows made everyone cry. Delilah, 7 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. Today, I get to make the best decision. I promise to support your dreams, to be your partner in every adventure, to raise our children with love and intention, and to never let pride or fear come between us again. You are my heart, my home, my everything. Delilah's vows were equally powerful. Sterling, our story isn't a fairy tale. It's messy and complicated and real. But that's what makes it beautiful. We've both grown and changed. We've learned what matters. And what matters is this: us, our family, our commitment to choosing love every single day. I promise to trust you with my heart, to build our life together as true partners, and to never stop believing in second chances. When they kissed, Jasper and Autumn cheered louder than anyone. At the reception, Diane gave a toast that had everyone emotional. To my daughter, who showed incredible strength in raising 2 children alone. To Sterling, who proved that people can genuinely change and grow. To Jasper and Autumn, the 2 most amazing children I've ever known. And to second chances, forgiveness, and the beautiful complexity of real love. Later, as Sterling danced with Delilah under string lights in the backyard, where they were building their forever, he pulled her close. Any regrets? Only one. What's that? That it took us 7 years to get here. Delilah smiled. Maybe we needed those 7 years. Maybe we needed to become who we are now before we could make this work. Maybe you're right, but I'm grateful for every day from now on. Even when I'm grumpy from work stress, especially then, I'll love watching you handle it with the same fierce determination you bring to everything. And when your business trips conflict with school events, then business trips get rescheduled. Family comes first now. Family comes first always. As the evening progressed, Sterling watched his children dance with their grandmother, watched Delilah laugh with her colleagues, watched his executive team mix with her architect friends. 2 worlds that had been separate were now beautifully merged. This was his life now. Not the sterile penthouse and corporate achievements, but this, messy and loud and full of love. 2 years later, everything had settled into beautiful routine. Sterling and Delilah's partnership was stronger than ever. Equal voices in their relationship, supporting each other's careers without competition, making decisions together about the children, the household, their future. Delilah's Toronto project had been completed to international acclaim. She'd been offered a permanent position as lead architect for the firm's sustainable development division. Sterling's company had thrived under the Toronto expansion. The satellite office had become a full operational hub. He'd hired local talent, invested in Canadian markets, and proven that physical location mattered less than leadership and vision. Jasper and Autumn were thriving, 8 years old now, and brilliantly, wonderfully themselves. Jasper had won another science fair with a project on sustainable energy. Autumn had published a short story in a children's magazine. And there was one more addition to the family. Delilah was 6 months pregnant. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Sterling had left her 7 years ago convinced she was barren. Now they were expecting another child together. Turns out you were never the problem. Delilah had said when she told him about the pregnancy. We were both the problem. Sterling had replied, and we're both the solution. The baby, a girl they decided to name Hope, was due in 3 months. Jasper and Autumn were excited about becoming big siblings. They'd already started planning what they'd teach her, how they'd protect her, what stories they'd tell her about how their family came together. On a quiet Sunday morning, Sterling sat in their backyard, watching Delilah work in her garden while the twins played. His phone buzzed. A text from Michael. The Tokyo investors are asking about your timeline for returning to New York full-time. Sterling typed back, not returning. Toronto is home now. That would have been unthinkable 7 years ago. Choosing family over corporate headquarters. Prioritizing personal life over business expansion. Now it was the easiest decision he'd ever made. Delilah came to sit beside him, her pregnant belly making movement more careful. What are you thinking about? How I got here. How a wrong number at 2:47 in the morning changed everything. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Jasper had dialed correctly? If he'd reached 911 instead of you, all the time, I would have missed all of this. Missed you, missed them, missed the greatest joy of my life. He put his hand on her belly, feeling hope kick. I don't believe in fate, but I believe we were supposed to find our way back to each other, through our son's terrified phone call in the middle of the night, through his bravery and your skill in keeping him calm and my desperate need for you to survive. Delilah leaned her head on his shoulder. We have a strange love story. We have a real love story, messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. As the sun set over their Toronto backyard, their children playing, their future growing inside. Delilah, their love stronger for having survived the worst, Sterling reflected on the journey. He'd been a man who measured success in dollars and deals, who let others' opinions dictate his choices, who threw away love for status. Now he was a man who measured success in bedtime stories and school events and the way his wife smiled when he walked in the door, who made his own choices based on what mattered to his heart, who would do anything to protect the love he'd found. The phone call that changed everything hadn't just been about Jasper needing help. It had been about Sterling needing to find his way home. And home wasn't a place. It was these people, this love, this messy, complicated, absolutely perfect family. Before we close this chapter, I want you to think about the choices we make and the consequences they carry. Sterling made a terrible choice 7 years ago. He hurt someone he loved. He missed years of his children's lives. But he also made a different choice when given a second chance. He showed up. He was consistent. He proved through actions, not just words, that people can change. Delilah made a choice too. The harder choice, maybe, to forgive, to trust again, to risk her heart after it had been shattered, to give Sterling the opportunity to prove himself. And those children, Jasper and Autumn, they made a choice to open their hearts to a father they didn't know, to believe in family, to bridge the gap between two people who love them. This is the power of second chances. Not that everyone deserves them, but that some people earn them. Not that forgiveness is easy, but that it's sometimes worth the risk. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about your own choices, your own capacity for change or forgiveness, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Maybe someone struggling with whether to give a second chance. Maybe someone trying to prove they've changed. Maybe someone who needs hope that broken things can be repaired. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because every week I bring you stories that matter. Stories about real human emotion, real growth, real love. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And drop a comment. Tell me, have you ever given someone a second chance? Have you ever had to earn one? What did it teach you about love, forgiveness, and human nature? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me. Remember, sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes people really can change. And sometimes love is strong enough to survive anything, even 7 years of separation if both people are willing to fight for it. Thank you for going on this journey with Sterling, Delilah, Jasper, and Autumn. Thank you for believing in the power of redemption and second chances. Until next time, keep your hearts open to possibility. Keep believing in growth and change. And remember that family isn't just about biology. It's about showing up, being present, and choosing love every single day. This is Dr. Phillips, reminding you that every love story is worth telling, especially the ones that teach us what it means to be courageously, beautifully, imperfectly human.